Hi guys, this is Kang here, and I'm just going to be showing you guys a quick tutorial on how to Photoshop and stitch some of your images together into something that you could put into Midjourney for better results. So, for those of you that had me, I think we discussed something about having three ranges of depth, three ranges in scale, and three ranges of thickness, right? Um, so when you Photoshop your image together, try to have as many of these qualities as you can uh, before you put it into the Mid Journey. So here I took some of your guys' stuff, and I'm just gonna do a quick Photoshop tutorial here. So I'm just gonna drag in just a couple of images that I've liked. Um, and then when you do this, just make sure your pictures are upscaled and high resolution because the resolution does matter in terms of what Midjourney gives you. So, okay, I'll just do these three for now. Um, so the way I'm going to Photoshop is I'm going to do what's called a non-destructive Photoshopping method. So I'm going to just only use masks. Um, so yeah, so here I have three photos and let's make this one big. So I'm going to take the qualities that I like from each of these images, and I'm just going to make a new composition in Photoshop. So I'm going to start with this image. What I really like is these sort of deep pockets, um, sort of the way this thing is like this overall surface is coming up and then it's coming back in, like things that have a lot of spatial interest, those are the ones I'm going to choose. So I think I'm going to just isolate this moment here. And then with my layer selected, I'm going to mask this. I'm going to click here. So, what I just did was I selected, use the select tool, click that, right? And so what you can notice is that it's going to give you a black or white. So the way you mask is you either paint black or white, and that uh, white is what reveals the image and black is what conceals it. So I can actually paint on this layer mask using a paintbrush, and if it's black, it's going to cover up my image, and vice versa. If it's white, it's going to reveal more of my image. So this is useful in terms of trying to blend your images together. You don't want any sort of like hard, crisp edges. Like for example, you don't want to do this and like try to like put it on top of like Midjourney is going to detect these really weird, hard edges, right? You want to try to blend it in as seamlessly as possible. So you're tricking Midjourney into thinking it's one composite image, right? So I'm just going to delete this layer mask and right, like the mask goes away. So okay, with that said, I'm actually, instead of using that selection tool method, I'm actually just gonna like, with nothing selected, I'm gonna click this. It's just gonna give me an all white layer mask. So my job now is to paint it black, the areas that I don't want it to show. So I'm gonna just do this using the soft round tool, and I'm gonna, you know, I hold Alt, right click, drag, and it makes this smaller or bigger. So that's a good shortcut to use. And I'm just gonna blend away Just blend away this. So I have this thing. So when you notice when it's overlaid on the picture underneath, it blends in, you can't tell there's weird hard edges, right? So given the things I discussed with my section, I mentioned that your one singular image should have range and scale, right? So this, honestly, these are so blurry. I'm gonna use a different set of images. So let's see. Just gonna use this one maybe. Yeah, that one's pretty good. Uh, and then this one. Okay, so for now I'm gonna keep this here and see what I could do to work off of this. So actually, what I like about this is there's this surface that's tucking inside, so it really gives you that sense of depth, right? It's so dark in there. And this comes out, and this is like at the closest, right? So I might, honestly, I might just do this entire area, maybe even parts of it. So, you know, another thing too is think about how you're composing these sort of pieces, right? Like doing this, get rid of that top edge. So now I have this sort of like piece thing, right? So when I composite, I can, play around with, I can even, so keep in mind of your shadows, right? So, while I do recommend playing around with like rotating things or like maybe even like distorting some of the image, like, play around until you get that sense of like hierarchy, right? Like what's the biggest thing? What's the focus? What's the second focus? And what's the tertiary focus, right? So maybe I won't flip it upside down. Maybe I'll do something like that. I'll just blow it up, make this really big, and it'll contrast with this. Maybe this can get small. You know what I mean? I'm playing around the scales here so that I'm giving a more varied composition in the image. So let's say I have something like that. And then what's here, maybe I like, I don't know, I like the shape of these windows, maybe just one of them, you know. I also play with the feathering. So if I'm using this selection tool, I might just bump up the feather to like 4 pixels or something. And then I'll just mask it out, something like that. And then I'll put it somewhere here. So now, okay. So bear with me for a second. So, okay, maybe I'll just make this bigger. And nicely, let's say you got something like this, right? So this plane is like it's facing me, it's perpendicular to my view, but this is like slanted, right? So I have to reconcile this edge, right? So I think once I have my composition set, I'm just gonna rasterize all these images. So then I can actually start to apply the burn tool. You can only apply the burn tool when your images are rasterized, meaning it's just gonna bake your image. So when it's gonna you can basically manipulate that image however you want when you rasterize it. So I have the burn tool, and I kind of want to like make this bottom part dark. So the layer that I need to Photoshop that on is this. So make sure I select this. Don't select the layer mask. Be careful, just select this image here. And I'm going to start burning away. So it's gonna give this illusion of a shadow. And you'll notice it's turning blue, but we can fix that later. So now it's giving this impression that, there's this like dark edge underneath here, right? Um, and I can go a lot further with this. So let's say I want this to look deeper than it actually is. So I'll actually burn it. So now I'm actually giving it this fake depth in the image. And then maybe something like this. Maybe I want this window to look a lot deeper, right? That's ways you can like actually add more depth. And on the inverse, the dodge tool lightens it. So another thing, I have my settings as to shadows because I want to add more shadows into the image. And, you can play around with these exposure settings. Like, I have it to 100 so I can burn it quickly. But if you want to like gradually build it up, you can lower the exposure and, just work your way in, right? Like I just made that a bit darker, right? But yeah. So yeah, on the inverse, there's the dodge tool. And for the dodge, you're basically lightening the images. So you want to be on the highlights, right? The highlights is the brightest parts of your image, right? Your midtones is the middle and your shadows is the darkest parts, right? So sh highlights, you want to actually brighten the brightest parts, right? So let me make the brush smaller and you can actually fake how close something is to you too. But I would recommend you using more of the burn tool. I think that's just a bit more easier to control. Uh, but yeah, if you want to play around with that, that's there. So yeah, I have this, quick composition I did. It's, stitching together all these different pictures, both for myself and whatever, and for my partner, right? And once that's done, you're gonna export it out. Um, I'll just call this Photoshop. And then I'm going to go into Midjourney. So you can see I was already playing around with it, but I'm going to go into Midjourney. I'm going to blend my new Photoshopped image. Where did I save it? Maybe I didn't save it. Okay. Hmm. Where's oh, it is. Okay, so drag that in and then mix it with, an old iteration that you had. Um, I'll just throw this in there. This is something I was working on earlier. Um, and blend it up. So yeah, I think I had a couple questions asking like, what is it we look for? Like, this is something I came upon. This is actually, I'll show you guys. This is something I had photoshopped earlier. Uh, all my favorite moments that were from each image. Like this deep pocket here. I even darkened some areas, right? Um, so yeah, this is what happens when your image is too low res, and when you blend it together, a low res image with a high res image, it might give you some blurry results, but that's okay. Uh, Because then, you're building off of this. So maybe there's some aspects of this that you like, and then you can throw it back in Photoshop quickly. So yeah, I like these details here. I like how it's creating this pocket of space here. That's nice. You know, so let me just save this. As you can see, I was actually recording another tutorial earlier, but it didn't record it right, so now I'm redoing it. But anyways, here I am. Okay, so I'm gonna go back into Photoshop. I think maybe this image is a little blurry. I might replace it. I'm gonna throw in, uh, I just saved it, right? There we go. So, I really like this part, so I'm actually gonna keep it. And, the more precise you stitch together your image, the better. But don't spend forever on it. Just maybe get one or two really good photoshopped images that you could use as a base, and then just blend it with all your other existing images that you have, right? So, um, yeah, so yeah, something about that I like. So I'm gonna keep it, maybe turn that one off. I like how, this feels a little deep. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rasterize it. I'm gonna emphasize the deepness even more using the burn tool. So I'm just gonna like really burn it. So as I was saying earlier, when you burn it, it's also burning the color values too. So that's why it's turning blue. And the way to fix this is you're gonna go to hue and saturation, and you're gonna click this thing. So you get to color pick any color value in it and lower the saturation of just that color. So I'm gonna drag to the left, and it's going to get rid of my blues here. Um, I'm just dragging as many blue values, like it's color picking. Yeah, so yeah, you're going to see here it says blues, right? So that's how right, it detects the color. So that's a good tool. I'm going to do a clipping mask to it so that it's only, well, whoopsies. We'll do a clipping mask to it. So it's just this image. I might just group it so it's easier to work with. So yeah. So now that looks really dark. Looks really deep. Um, yeah. And maybe I'll throw in another picture. So this is one of the iterations I've had earlier. What I really like about this is, you know, it's varied and not just such a linear way, but there's things going across and over. It's things are nesting in, surfaces are interlocking with each other, structure. This comes down but it ends, and then this continues over. Like this is like the type of composition that I recommend when you have or for your outputs. And this is okay, but it's too bunched up together, right? Like you want like an actual composition, right? Like if you know, you don't want it to be too stripy. You want it to be more like, something like this, right? Compositionally, right? This is the most abstract way I could show you how, elements in your uh, input should be composed, right? On top of having the depth into it too. So, I'm gonna just, I'm gonna select just this moment. It's my favorite moment. Mask it out. And then, yeah, maybe kind of just play around with it. Just maybe make this big. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to like really blend it together. So I'm gonna get rid of this middle window here and I'm gonna try to blend it in with this one, right? So we'll see how that works. So um I'm probably gonna like select it. This is already masked. There's already masking. So remember to select your mask layer and I'm gonna paint some more black. Black is to conceal, right? So, and then deselect, I'm gonna go in and you can see I'm really trying to like mix in as much as I can, you know, my images. And I think that's the cool thing about the Photoshop brush tools, and then you just kind of like, then you go back to the white paintbrush and I'm just gonna like blend it back in. You know, the more ambiguous, the better, you know, so, you can barely tell, like it almost looks like it's, right? Just maybe get in there and like, yeah, the more precise you blend it, the better for you. Maybe not. Maybe I want to get rid of some of this, bring some of the other image underneath back. So then now I have something that's really unique. Uh, right? Like, and it's a combination of all my favorite elements, right? Things that have depth, things that like poke out, push in, things that aren't so stacked against each other, things that kind of like intertwine around, wrap around, things that nestle. Those are all positive things. Those are all very good things to have. So, I'm gonna fill this up, save my image, and then I'm gonna throw it back in the Midjourney. Do- So I'm gonna do blend. And let's see. There we go. Right. So, I know some of you guys have more flatter outputs, and you guys are trying to find precedents or trying to figure out ways to like add more depth. This is it. You know, this is the way. Literally stitch together surfaces of various images and then just like, you know, use the burn tool. Uh, that's not the burn tool. This is the burn tool, to really emphasize shadows. Right. So yeah, so now I'm getting really unique results. I think, yeah, this is a little crazy. What does it look like? Yeah, just this detailing, right? Like it's just, but I'm getting this issue where I'm getting blurry edges. That's okay. Some of them don't. This one doesn't. This one has a pretty clear seam actually. So I might just vary more of those. But yeah, I think some of these are starting to have some interesting spatial qualities. Like this thing is poking out, so it's creating a pocket underneath here. Same thing with here. There's this pocket of space here. Um, right, so you're gonna just have to keep playing around, go back and forth in Photoshop, and just throw it back in the Midjourney. So yeah, there's this one. Yeah, I think we're getting a lot more interesting and varied results. Again, it's really in the precision on how you Photoshop it. I think maybe if I added something here, that could make it less. Um, so actually, I might take this one, Photoshop, or mask that out. Maybe even squeeze it in. Right, and then I could literally mask out that moment. I like the arch. It's not as good. I don't know. Maybe actually I like that better. I'll just keep that there. Yeah. Then re-export it. And then go back into Midjourney. Uh, let's see. I'm gonna blend it with something different now. This is something I photoshopped earlier, the one I was talking about. Cool. So yeah. Uh, okay, we're getting really spatially interesting things right now. So just gonna upscale all these and see. Um, yeah, like a lot of deep things. Nice. There's some variation going on. This is pretty cool. I like how this jumps and goes into this one. Like yeah. So yeah, I think these already are getting really interesting. Um, just like this blurry middle, really trying to see what I could do. Like, I guess it's like, it really is a matter of like, I think it's probably this area. It's getting a little blurry. So, it's not perfect, but just that alone is getting you just more, it's just getting you better results. Maybe I will Photoshop a seam onto here. And it's like mixing the contemporary in there. But yeah, and then probably just try to like, um, you know, and if you're good with Photoshop, then you'll know the pen tool. You can like even use that uh, to help you precisely select things, right? What I just used was the pen tool. I made a closed loop and then Out of the path, I am going to make selection. I might give it 1 pixel of feather. Now I have a selection, very precise selection that I can just now, with the layer mask selected, I'm gonna just precisely paint that up, right? Like the more precise you can make your Photoshop, the better, so, and maybe push it up so this edge kind of goes along with that. Play around with that, make it precise, but don't don't spend too long on it. It's more of like a trial and error. You want to throw that back into the Midjourney as soon as possible. Let me just export this out. Okay. And go and blend it. Hmm. I know this one's a little flatter, but I'll just throw it in there and see what happens. Um, yeah. So I guess something we can learn is like maybe try avoid as many blurry areas as possible. Just try to like, if it gets too blurry, do what I did, just cover it up with a crisper piece and just try to merge it into uh, the rest of the image. Okay, so we're getting things. Again, overall, a little flat. So, you know, just why it's best to just and what I mean by flat is like, yes, there's deepness, there's pockets, there's edges, there's shadows, but uh, we want to exaggerate it even more, right? Like, which is why I ask of you guys to go into Photoshop and really, darken some parts, make it look deep. Really, it's going to benefit you in the long run. It's going to benefit your final model once you start modeling some of these moments out. So, okay, I'm gonna just do that again. Um, Maybe I will throw in maybe this one. I think this is one of you guys's. I think this one's an interesting window. I like the weaving of like what's this like what's happening here is pretty interesting. Maybe I'm gonna vary that one. It's when you do these things, when you're doing this assignment, you got to be you're looking out at a lot of things, right? Not only are you looking at the spatial qualities, but you're also looking at details that you like, right? Like things like this. It's just interesting thinking about line and continuation of line and where it starts and stops. Like if it's doing that in interesting ways and iterate more of it, get more variations out of it, see what you can do. Okay, like I think this is the one I just blended. Yeah, so I think this one starts to get interesting. Let's see. This third one has an interesting detail here. Um, yeah, your results are just going to get more and more complex, more controlled. This is how you control Midjourney, right? You use Photoshop uh, to control your input. And yeah, now, you could Photoshop two things, blend that together, two completely different things, blend that together and see what you get. Um, I'll just try. I think there's a couple things I've photoshopped already, so maybe I'll throw this in, and then maybe I'll throw. Actually, these are almost very similar. Actually, I'll throw this one in. Place this one. Right, like if you guys still don't understand what I was trying to talk about when I brought up Modrian was just, look, just like compositionally, like it's similar, right? Like this band that goes across, there's this sort of thing that nestles in, right? Think of this is a great example of a variation of scale. There's you got the square and then you got take the square and you chop it in half and you get like this rectangle. So this is more skinny and you got this really skinny piece here that's long, but then you got a skinny piece here that's short. It's just a variation of of I want to say shapes, but it's all of the same family of shape, right? It's squares, rectangles, what, yeah, so try to find that same cohesion and geometry, right? Like this is all squares and rectangles. Well, here, this is all arches and curves. And so, right. But then also compose it in the Photoshop that makes it uh looks good. So, okay, this is looking good. This is looking really good. This is looking pretty cool. Um, you know, like what is that, right? All these details happening spatially, it's getting there. No, I'm gonna save this actually. Maybe do more variations. Oh, there's something happening here. Um, yeah, even though this is not good, this is very good. This is super detailed, and it's just a weird blend of things that is highly articulated. Lots of weird spatial pockets happening. Weird isn't good. It's a good weird. Um, so I'm gonna save that and then see what I could do in the Photoshop. So now I'm getting really, really more complex iterations. Lots of good details here. Yeah, yeah, this is a nice weird pocket in the middle. Um, yeah, save it, throw it in the Photoshop, vary some more. Really, you just have fun with it. Just like really make it as unique as you can, given everything we've discussed. Um, I'm gonna do one last one. I'm just gonna Photoshop one last thing into it and then call it a day. So, take this thing that I liked, mask out everything else. So I'm just selecting and I'm just clicking this and it's already giving me, you know, the thing that I want isolated. So yeah, actually I'll just put this here. Mm. So now this thing is just becoming a little collection of all the attributes that I like. Uh, yeah, I think some of you mentioned, should you turn it black and white? You can. I do think colored will appear, um, it will appear back, but then it's just merely a material thing, which is why I was telling you guys at first it didn't really matter. But uh, if you do want to get rid of color, this is one way to do it. Um, who knows? Maybe it might make for better Midjourney results. Actually, let's try it. So the only problem is that all your outputs will come out looking like the same black and white, and maybe sometimes color will affect the result in a good way. But- oh, wow, that's crazy. This first one, lots of good space happening. Um, oh, wow. Okay. This one too. Yeah, like love how this one, this in your face, right? This is the medium shallow, and then this just goes deep in. It's just weird things start interlocking with each other. It's really nice. Yeah. Yeah. Deep things here. Um, the connection between this and this is a little vague. That's why, I like this one a lot better. Yeah. Let's blend it again. Actually, let's save this one. This one's really great. You need to, so as you go through this, really try to be self-critical about it. Find the good ones and then toss the good ones back in the Midjourney so you can get more good ones, you know? So yeah, because this is the last chance you'll get at this assignment before you start modeling. Um, so yeah, so okay, this is what we did. The one I just saved. Let's see, here we go. I'm excited for this one, actually. Let's blend it. Hmm. Well, okay. This one has potential. I really like a lot of these interlocking elements. This is really interesting. Um, something like this one isn't as interesting just because it's so, one, two, three, like it's just two. But this one's very interesting because then various elements are kind of going into each other. You're kind of losing the striation of things a bit and, you know, kind of like that Mondrian painting, right? So more of this is good and less of, one, two, three, right? On top of having all that spatial variation, right? So actually, I might just blend it again. Um, and if you still find it that your final photoshopped output is better than any of your iterations anyways, feel free to include that in. So, but it has to look good. So make sure, the things are photoshopped well, seamless, no obvious, weird hard edges. That's a result of, you didn't blur it right, it's like just make sure, right? But yeah, yeah. Let's see. Hopefully this one blows my mind. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't, yeah, yeah. So if you don't like the first time, just blend it again. You'll see what happens. So a lot of weird, crazy seams. Yeah. I think maybe the third one has something interesting. going on. Like the detailing here is really insane. Um, a little uncontrolled. What I mean by that is like, things, geometries that look, you know, not precise, right? I know some of you were wondering what I meant by uncontrolled. I think it's just things that lack precision, right? That's all I meant. Anyways, yeah, it's not coming out the way let's try it again. Let's try, maybe this one. Maybe you just gotta try different images. Yeah, I think at this point you get the point of what I'm trying to do. Feel free to stop watching now, but you know, yeah, let me see what this last one comes out to. But okay, yeah, lots of lots of space in that one. I can't tell if it's a mix of the first and second. It probably is. Yeah, yeah, that's only half. But actually, you can even just go back in Photoshop and combine these two together. It might, that's a good, that's a really good one actually. Like the way this comes across, but then this surface here, is, yeah, it really gives this concavity effect with this here. So, all right. Well, that's the Photoshop tutorial. Yeah. If any questions, please just reach out to me or email me. Okay. Thanks.